last section in this unit is a short one. It is just a quick section, quick review on square roots, what they are, how to work with them, how to simplify them, how to solve them. Square root of a given number, denoted by the radical symbol, is the value that, when multiplied by itself, gives the original number. It's the inverse of squaring a number being taking a number to the second power. So essentially, the square root of a number gives you the number that, when taken to the second power, would give you the number under the radical. So let's just take a look at a few. They're pretty straightforward. Most of these you will be able to do on your calculator. There's one at the end that we can't, but we will cross that bridge when we get there. So we're looking at the first example here, the square root of 16. So what number to the second power gives me 16, or what number times itself gives me 16? So if you know your multiplication tables well, we know it's 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So the answer to the square root of 16 is 4. In the calculator, on a TI-83, we see the radical function here above the squared button. It's yellow, so we know we're going to have to hit the second key, then push the square button. That gives me my little radical symbol. Type in the number I want to take the square root of, close the parentheses, hit enter, 4. So we know we got square root of 16 is 4. So most of these are pretty straightforward. Square root of 25, what number to the second power gives you 25? We could use the calculator, but quick mental math, 5 times 5 is 25, so the square root of 25 is 5. Negatives are difficult because when you're taking the square root of a negative number, we can't get a real answer. But when we have a square root with a negative in front of it, that's fine. What we do is we take this piece by piece. We carry the negative down. Now, what is the square root of 49? Again, you can use the calculator to take the square root of 49, or just know that 7 times 7 is 49. So the answer to this problem would be negative 7. The negative carries down. The negative inside the radical does not work. It gives us what's called an imaginary number, which we do not go over in this class. So for the sake of this class, we say this is not a real number. Now the reason being, the square root of 4 we know is 2, because 2 times 2 is 4. But what two numbers would multiply to give us negative 4? Well, in that case, there is no number times itself that would give us negative 4. One of our 2's would have to be negative, which means we're not really squaring anything. Those 2 and negative 2 are two different numbers. So there is no real number that, when I multiply it by itself, gives me a negative 4. And we can see this illustrated in the calculator if we try to take the square root of negative 4, non-real answer. So we just hit enter to get back out of that screen. So when we come across something like this, for the sake of this class, we say does not exist as far as the real numbers are concerned, because we're only concerning ourselves with real answers in this course. So negative in front of a radical, we can do it, just carry the negative down to the answer, because we're doing the square root of 49 separate and then making it negative. The square root inside a radical does not exist, because the negative is under the radical. Square root of a fraction, we just take the square root of each individual piece of the fraction. So for this case, and I did not mean to write the radical there, so we'll just write underneath it. The square root of 25 over 4, the square root of 25 we found above was 5. The square root of 64, what number times 64 is itself, is 8. And we could do this in the calculator one piece at a time. We could do square root of 25 is 5, square root of 64 is 8, so we know it's 5 over 8. Or we could do it all at once. Square root of 25 divided by 64. In the TI-83, the divided by key counts as your fraction key. Now it gives us a decimal. We wanted a fractional answer, but we can always convert decimals to fractions in this calculator. Just hit math, make sure number 1 is highlighted, which means convert to fraction. Hit enter twice, and it will give us the 5/8 we wanted. This last example we cannot type in the calculator, because if we try it, the square root of 18 does not come out evenly. Now if a problem asks us to round, then that's fine. The square root of 18 is approximately 4.243. But if it asks us for an exact answer in terms of radicals, that means we've got to break this down using our factors that we found out a couple of sections ago. So what I want to do is, when I'm breaking down a radical, both pieces still have the square root or the radical over them. And I want to find the two numbers that are going to multiply to give me 18, one of which will simplify. So the way I go about this is I write down my number, 18. And I want to list out all the pairs of numbers that are going to multiply to give me 18. So 1 times 18, 2 times 9, and 3 times 6. No other pairs of numbers will multiply to give me 18. Now what I want to do is look through and find the biggest number that has a square root. So we could go through and test all of them if you're not sure. We know 18 doesn't work, so we're going to try 9. And always start at the biggest and work your way down because we want the biggest of these. So the square root of 9 is 3, so the second number we tried was the 1. So we're going to use 9 and 2 because 9 had a square root. So the number that had the square root I want to write first. The number that doesn't I'm going to write under the secondary radical. Now the reason I did this is so that I can take the square root of the number that I just tested. We did it in the calculator, it's 3, so the first part of this is just 3. Everything else carries down as is because I can try the square root of 2 in here, but I know it's not going to work. It comes out as a decimal, so I leave it as the square root of 2. So the simplification of the square root of 18 is 3 times the square root of 2.